This is Vic Patel with Craft Express.
My name is Ashley from Artistry.
It's Gavin, founder, creator of Seps.io, and you're listening to
Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by
Terry Combs RG, regular guy.
and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
The best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Prepare for the wild.
All right, welcome into the show. It is Friday, Good Friday, April 3rd, 2026. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery from Super Gamut and our Success Group. And this week we're going to be joined by our amazing producer, Eric. He's going to be jumping on here in a little bit with Terry and I. And so I know that always makes for a good bonus length show, but we'll see how we do today. But the idea, Terry, is for the three of us to talk about pricing and maybe not in a way that some people would think, right? Like, we're not going to be saying, here's your magic bullet formula or anything like that, and getting into, we will certainly talk some numbers, but I think really more about value, right? And I think people miss that, the difference between price and value. So anyhow, I don't want to give away the whole show, but that's the idea, at least for my mind.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's the subject that most people struggle with. So, and speaking of lots of information, we decided that we have a lot to talk about. So we're going to push Eric's secret sauce to next Friday.
Absolutely. Yeah, we figured there's a pretty good chance we're going to go into bonus time, and then add in Eric's secret sauce in there. We'll be much too late to keep that going. So Eric, next week, secret sauce coming to you, and excited to hear that from Eric. But speaking of excited, we've got our good friend Teresa Hagel with ASI waiting in the background here. She's taken her day off to come and be here with you guys, the regulators. So tune in. Make sure you guys are subscribed over there at asicentral.com. And Terry, are we ready to hear the news from Teresa?
We are ready. Hopefully there's some Easter eggs hidden in the news.
Hi, everyone. This is Teresa Hagel, Executive Editor for Special Projects and Sustainability at ASI, and I have some great headlines to share with you today. I'm not sure if it's an Easter egg, but maybe a whole chocolate bunny with the first one. We have ASI recently releasing the 2026 Ad Impressions Study, which highlights the effectiveness and impact of promotional products as measured by end users. So we actually surveyed thousands of consumers around the world to find out how branded merchandise influences buying decisions and brand perception. And there's tons of insights in this study, but I'm going to leave you with a couple of big points just to kind of whet your appetite. So first off, useful products have the longest shelf life. According to the study, 78% of US consumers would keep a promo item because it's useful. And then the second thing I wanted to share was t-shirts, the top selling product in the industry with about 4.2 billion in annual North American sales. They're also the product that consumers say that they're most excited to receive. So that's good news for everyone in the decorating space, of course, because t-shirts are kind of the bread and butter, right? After t-shirts, the other products that they're most excited to receive are fleece/jackets, food gifts, blankets, and bags. And as I said, there's a ton more stats, insights, things to kind of mull over. So I would encourage you to go to the website and download the full study to look at. Next up, we have a comprehensive story about America 250 and everything that distributors and decorators need to know about celebrating the nation's semi-quincentennial. And I've really gotten a lot of mileage learning how to say this word, so I'm kind of proud that I can pronounce it without stumbling. The 250th has sparked an increased demand for patriotic and made in USA products across industries. Suppliers are ramping up domestic production. Some things to know is that licensing with the official America 250 logo is optional, but if you do choose to use it, obviously licensing fees would be involved in that. But the other thing that's critical is accurate labeling. Any made in USA claims must meet FTC standards to avoid costly penalties. So that story has a ton of information just about the 250th anniversary and what some different suppliers, distributors, decorators are doing to help celebrate America's birthday. And then finally, we have some pretty big news for ASI as a whole. The company has named Ashish Mittal as CEO after the retirement of longstanding leader Tim Andrews, who retired after, I think, 23 years with the company. So Ashish, who officially began his tenure as CEO on April 1st, which was not an April Fool's joke, this was real, he has experience scaling tech-driven platforms and commerce networks with leadership roles at Sticky.io, GoPuff, and ShopRunner. He says that he's energized by the opportunity to deepen relationships with ASI's members through technology, insights, and community. As part of the leadership change, the company also announced that ASI's family-led structure continues, with Matthew Cohn and Stephanie Cohn-Schaefer becoming co-chairs of the company, and former chairman Norman Cohn stepping into the role of chairman I looked it up how to say it, so I never say it right. Emeritus. Got it. I did semi-quincentennial and then I flubbed it on emeritus. Ugh. Anyway, those are the news and have a great holiday.
Terry, I think I rub off on people messing up names and words and stuff. So we lost Terry's audio here. I could overdub him in Spanish, and it's not muted, so something happened there. But we'll give you a second. Nope, not now. So if you want to pop out real quick, I know you don't want to miss the dad joke, but you've seen it, so. Let's do that, and then we'll come back and hey, there we go. Hey, Eric.
We can make this work, right?
We can. All right, well then let's talk to the regulators first, and then we'll get the dad joke. I was going to go out of order there, but so while you're on screen, Eric, I'm going to ask you to push buttons again. But Chuck says, "Good morning, gentlemen," and he does have the quotes around it now, so I appreciate him getting that straight for us. And then my son Keegan joining us this morning. Appreciate you being here, Keegan. Love you, buddy. And Doug Sobel checking in from Los Angeles this morning. And Craig Bradley from Gray, Boston. Yeah. You now that you're an East Coast person, Eric.
Yeah. I've had a little bit of gray. Yeah. We've been having some nice weather, but yeah, I definitely understand the gray Boston comment right about now.
Yeah. All right, and then Ramona says, "Good morning. You can never have too many bags."
I will say there is no trade show I have seen where people are not carrying out a handful of bags. So yeah, everyone takes bags, even the folks like us.
Yeah, I actually call my wife the bag lady because like it just seems like we get a new bag everywhere. And we just have stacks of them. And then when we go anywhere, it's like, oh, we'll just shove it in a bag. And so we end up like with 27 bags in the back of the car.
Oh, I am the same way. I'm hard with that, especially when you have access to bags as somebody who is a supplier of said stuff. I have way too many nice Ojo bags. That is a hard thing for me to put away. Like a real good backpack, real good messenger. I'm a sucker. I'll buy that thing.
I love it. I love it. All right. And then Dean says, start your sign language skills, Terry. So yeah, we'll see.
Might be time.
Yeah. He's having some difficulty with the mic this morning. Yep. And then Vicky checking in. And good morning, Vicky. Thank you.
Good morning, Vicky.
Waving in. All right. Well, Terry's always so good about themed dad jokes, right? Like, and I think I've got one here. Now, I do have to give credit where credit is due. This actually comes from my 14-year-old son. So this was the dad joke. It is Easter weekend. So are you ready for this, Eric?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Eric. Well, here's how it goes. Mary ran to Peter and said, "Jesus has risen."
All right.
And Peter said, "No way." And then Mary smiled and said, "Yahweh."
And for the listeners out there, Yahweh or sounds like Yahweh.
Yahweh, and Yahweh is God amongst us.
I grinned at this one.
All right.
I know I had to play the straight man today and not giggle, but I grinned.
I know you couldn't do the normal head.
I can't usually do that. It's hard because when I'm down in the green room, everybody they can see me down under the screen, and so I'm usually like doing massive, face palms and making gestures at everybody and clapping at everybody's segments.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I start like gesticulating wildly, you'll know I forgot that I'm on camera.
You forgot that you're on camera. All right, that's good. All right, Eric. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the housekeeping for us before we dive in here. Hopefully Terry's back, but could just be you and I. We will see.
I'll make it work.
Yes, Lewis does come up with the best dad jokes. I appreciate his help. Those.
Totally.
Every once in a while, the YouTube stuff comes in handy. Most of the time, it's just brain rot, but occasionally we get a good one. So
at least we have a couple of people rolling in the aisles.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, Eric, before we dive in, we do want to thank everyone for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast today. We do need your voices. I think we're really close. So if we got, and you don't have to have been on the show. You can be a regular listener. You can be a first-time listener. We'd love to have you participate in our show intros. If you'll go to osg.link/intro and read a few sentences, there's clear instructions. I work through the instructions there for you. So just read a few sentences and be part of every show. And we are so close to having a new introduction soon. So I need one more, folks. Help me out here. And we are always looking for new guests. You don't do this for 14 years and have some times where we need to fill the calendar. So if you or anyone you know wants to be part of the show, the great place to start is calendly.com/2 regular guys. If you want to just send us some suggestions or some ideas for future shows, please do so at info@2regularguys.com. If you are listening to the podcast version of our show, the reviews always help us greatly. And so if you could share a review of Two Regular Guys podcast with any of your industry friends so they can become regulators just like the rest of you guys, we would appreciate you giving us a review over there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, or wherever you do your podcast listening. We are there. So the other thing is, I appreciate seeing all you guys tuned in live. We always love these to be conversations, not just talking heads up here. So we're always keeping our eyes on the comment section there. And so join in with your comments, your questions, your thoughts as we talk about pricing and value today. So we do have Terry back in the green room there. Shall we give it a shot here, Eric?
Let's see how this goes. Oh, yep.
Huh. That is so
Still
weird.
Frozen. Yeah, I don't know.
Huh. Okay.
Unfortunately, sir, yeah, you still seem to be frozen and non-responsive. I don't know.
Oh, boy. Well, maybe there's internet issues there or something.
Maybe.
All right. Well,
Maybe.
Terry, try again, please, sir. Sorry. All right. Well,
These things happen in the live world.
yep. This isn't the biggest challenge we've ever had in a live broadcast, so it's all good. Thank you for being here, Eric. And so it worked out. We would have introduced you right here and said, "Hey, we're bringing in our good friend Eric Campbell." And but I guess, Eric, let me start by explaining a little bit about where this all popped up from. The three of us always have great conversations in the background in Google Chat, and it was interesting. We were trying to say, okay, well, what should we talk about? And I'd actually had 3 requests through Super Gamut from new customers asking what they should charge.
Yeah.
And, in that conversation, it was kind of just tell me what to charge. They wanted somebody to just tell them what to do. And while I understand that, right, that's part of the education that we do and we help people out, but they just spent a pretty decent chunk of change and, just felt like they didn't really have a pricing strategy other than to just copy what other people were saying or selling it for, right? And I get it. Pricing is one of the most challenging things. I ask everybody that comes through our success group, what's the number one challenge in your business? And 75% of the answers is pricing or some sort of a pricing idea. And, it just kind of feels like you kind of figure it out as you go. And I guess our idea here, Eric, is we want to have people understand what pricing is really all about. So you guys can think a little bit differently about the way you price your products. And
Yeah.
I guess, and I'm sure you have too, Eric, but Terry and I have seen
Big time.
tons of good people that just end up creating expensive jobs for themselves
Yeah.
because their pricing strategy, or in a lot of cases, lack thereof a pricing strategy. Um, so, as I mentioned at kind of the top of the show, this isn't really about formulas. This isn't about copying your competitor's price sheet. This is really about understanding value. And we talked about and we'll talk more in depth about the difference between price and value. But what's the value you actually bring to the table? Who are you best suited to serve? And how do you turn that pricing into something that's both profitable for you and sustainable for you? Um, because I think once you really get pricing right, everything else in your business gets easier. And when we struggle with pricing, I've seen too many good people just stay busy, stay stressed, stay stuck. Right? Like, I still remember the time when I was talking to a young lady who was just basically in tears. She had so much business, she was basically sleeping in her office, and yet she couldn't get ahead. And when we dug into her numbers, she was basically giving away work. She was working for free. That she was Terry, Eric. I think I've probably told you this. I'm turning into Terry here. I tell
all
the
good.
same story over and over again. But I probably told you about this young lady. 25 cents per 1,000 stitches.
Oh my gosh.
Not even the dollar, right? That's the
Yeah,
common
dollar
one,
per
isn't it?
thousand was 20 plus years ago
Yeah, yeah.
was the formula, let
And this
alone
was
now.
not 20 plus years ago. This was about 5 years ago. And
That's
it was
crazy.
25 cents per 1,000 stitches that somebody told her, and she just went with it.
That's it. And I hate to say that was something we dealt with a lot recently at Atlantic City. You guys know I just got done teaching over at Impressions Expo in Atlantic City, and invariably we had pricing questions. In fact, it was kind of a challenging question for us early on, where people just wanted us to kind of like spit out a number. And invariably, without kind of taking into account some of these higher level things we're going to talk about today, it's like, can we spit out a number for you for our region, for our shop we worked in, for the place we were at the time, for whatever, maybe. But pricing by zip code, pricing by consensus kind of ends up getting you into those same kind of situations.
Absolutely.
And on top of it, undersells your value. I think we need to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think we're going to break this into two parts here. First, we're going to talk about what value really means, and then how that translates into pricing that actually works. And we've got Eric here with us to make sure we don't leave any embroidery folks behind. And
We'll try.
and yes, exactly what Ramona says there. There are no magic numbers, not in pricing and not in settings for embroidery. There are too many variables, right? So.
Absolutely. Well, and it's a sure way to sell yourself short.
Absolutely.
Pricing only on materials is a sure way to sell yourself short. And I'll say, like you said, I've seen many people not only turn this into an expensive job, but honestly turn this into a hobby.
Yeah.
They're not even making the kind of money that
Yeah.
to be employed.
Yeah, their new job is paying them less than minimum wage, and you go. Yes. All right. Well, let's start here. So,
Sure.
what we can do, Eric, is I'm just going to kind of pose some questions, and
Sure.
the three of us, if Terry comes back, or the two of us, will just kind of bat these questions around a little bit. But so I'm going to throw this one at you first and
Sure.
see what your thoughts are. So when you're thinking about pricing, right? Like when you were involved in that, or when you're talking to people about pricing, what does value actually mean, right? And so again, we're thinking about pricing, but I want to talk about what value actually means.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We're going to talk about more about this, so I'm not going to go super, super deep. But when I'm talking about establishing pricing, I think about two kinds of value. I talk about, I teach in classes on pricing for embroidery, measurable value and perceived value. Measurable value is something where it's like our stitch counts, things like that, our material input. It's the classic way people think about value. But perceived value is how someone perceives your product and your service and how they value it. And both of those have to be taken into account when we are talking about pricing. Because honestly, yes, I do want to talk numbers, formulas, and the rest. That is something we can kind of talk about. But ultimately, we know that it's more than just what you can provide as far as more stitches, more locations, more colors, more anything. It's about how somebody feels about your business, what value they get, like promotional value or whatever, out of the thing that you're providing. it's that value on top of the actual cost that we have to factor in. I mean, you still have to factor in numbers. I'm not saying you don't. But I also want to make people realize that there is a value beyond just producing more and providing more. There is something else there, and is actually fairly important how we price things. And when we think about where you see garments all in the world, whether that's, you know, in a high store, at a decoration event, at whatever that is, in a resort, those things all have very different prices for very similar garments with very similar processes. And we have to think about why that is and why that's something we should think about when we're pricing.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, yeah, I'm right there with you on value. And the way I've always looked at value is again, what's the problem? Not again. Why do I? That's like a habit. I got to work on that habit. Sure. When I think about value, I think about, you know, what's the problem that we solve, right? And oh, we lost Terry again. I was just going to say, I think Terry's here. Terry used to always say, or still always says, actually, that you know, it's just a T-shirt, nobody dies. Right? But the fact of the matter is, you are solving a problem for people, and that's what your value is. It's that solving of the problem. Your customers don't necessarily care about the thing. Your customers care about the problem that you solve, the solution that you provide to them, and that's what your value is.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. Let me hit the next question here, Eric, sure. and we're still efforting with Terry, but he may just call it. Sometimes we get to that point where it's like, all right, well, Eric, this is you and I. But
it happens.
What are some ways that, you know, you would say you measure value on the products that are delivered to your customers beyond just the features, right? It's this many colors, it's this type of shirt, et cetera, et cetera. What are some ways to measure the value?
Well, I would say in like you said, in what solution it provides. And I think there's things to think about with that. And also, and I'm going to do, like you said, like Terry, I'm going to tell an old story here.
Okay.
There was a product that we sold at Black Duck, and we sold these garments. All we did to these garments, I'm just going to make this clear. This was, and I'll even tell you what kind of shirt it was. We had a Bella canvas shirt that we put a tag print in the back of it with the name of a retailer, right? Mm-hmm. It was a tag print inside of a blank T-shirt. We then packed it up in these little boxes that looked like purses with a foil print on the front with the logo from the particular company, right? I won't tell the company name, but I'll say the rest.
Yeah.
So a little foil printed pretty box that looked like a leather purse with a T-shirt inside. This was sold in a place that had higher fashion garments in it as like the perfect base layer T-shirt. This was a shirt that would probably retail in the $6 range generally, and they were selling it for $60. Does that mean that shirt is worth $60? It was in that context, and the people were buying them up like crazy because it had the context. It was being recommended by a trusted source, which was the people who were selling, and it had the personalization of the shop inside of the neck, which made it associated with that higher end brand. So does that mean we should all do that for everything? No, but what it does let us know is that there is a value beyond just features. Now, I'm going to go and say, here's the other thing. That's the one that feels a little shady to us. We're like, wow, I don't know that I feel like 10xing a product because it just happens to be in a cool store. But working with you is the other part of that. They can be features that you can't see, like we talk about soft skills with hiring. There's also soft skills with a business. Is it easier to work with you? Do you provide an easier onboarding? Do you make it easy to do the job? Is it do you provide a service people don't provide? Do you do some kind of art other people do, or some kind of process people don't do? Even if that's something that the time still is the same. Because I mean, we like to price on how much time things take and the rest, and that makes sense to do. There are still things where we're providing a value-added service, either in the way either in the decoration, in the design, in the solutions providing. Did we work up solutions and work up, potential options for someone that helps them do more promotion or sell more merch or whatever it is? Or it can even just be value that you provide from the way you operate. Like, is it a nice experience to go work with you? Do they prefer the way you keep contact with people? Do you do everything, via text and online where everybody else requires you to come into the shop? I don't know. There's anything that a customer sees as a valuable way to do business can be a value add that might increase what you deliver. And when you're talking about what the product delivers, it's also, hey, does it get the job done better than stuff that other folks are offering? And that can be about design. That can be about the way you provide solutions. It can be about you sourcing different garments or accessories or what have you that answer that question better. Like, hey, how do I get a product, like Teresa just said, a useful product that people are excited to get, so that it continues to live with the consumer and continues to create these impressions as a promotional product.
Yeah.
All of that is part of how you deliver more value than just, I'm giving you a shirt. It's also, hey, I'm providing more impressions. I'm creating more visible branding for you. I'm keeping something on someone instead of it going into the brand fill section at your local Goodwill. These things are part of the creativity you provide, and it means that your product then has a higher value than somebody else who's just cranking out logo slaps.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get Terry in here. I think we've got him. We're going to see. Terry, are you there?
All right. Can you hear me, guys?
We can hear you. There we go. So, Terry, we're talking about value right now. What does value actually mean in a business? So we've got some comments here from our regulators, but why don't you share your thoughts on value here real quick, Terry, and then we'll get our comments from the regulators.
Yeah, and I don't want to repeat. I heard bits and pieces of it. So, but value could be a lot of things. Value could be something as simple as on your website, can somebody track their order? I mean, that's value to the person purchasing from you. So, I guess, well, I know Eric touched on perception and that sort of thing, but I've always been somebody who sells value much more than, hey, do you want to buy a T-shirt? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But I know you guys have probably touched on
well, a little bit. Yeah, I can quickly just expand on that a smidge too, Terry. I love that idea. I think people, like, I say this all the time in my pricing classes, because we're decorators, right? We get excited about the things. Oh, that cool shirt, the cool transfer process, the this, the that, or the other thing. Our customers don't care about that. Otherwise, they would be our competitors, not customers, right? And so they're not there to buy your thing. They're there to buy your service, right, and what you provide, and your expertise on that thing, right? So don't sell them the T-shirt, sell them what you provide, and I think that's really what you're saying, I think, Terry.
Yeah, and it could be something as simple as, and this is something I tell people in my screen printing classes, most of your competitors are printer folding their shirts, which means you stack 12, you flip the tail under, you drop it in a box.
Yep.
And I say individually fold every shirt. So when they open that box, it feels like a greater value. You're when it's printer folded, it's a commodity. When they're individually folded, maybe individually bagged, I may have told this story before. My youngest daughter graduated from Desert Mountain High School in Scottsdale, and there are 2,500 kids in that school, and everybody gets a Wolf Den shirt because they are the Desert Mountain Wolves, and she was telling me about getting her Wolf Den shirt, and she's about 5'2", and so she goes, Dad, I went up and they were passing out the shirts, and I'm in the back, but one of the Stugo kids saw me and yelled, hey, Riley, what size did you order? And she said, a small, I think, and over the crowd just tossed a shirt. And I thought, man, that is an account just waiting to be stolen, because here's what I would have done. Every one of those shirts would have been in a bag with a little sticker on it with the person's name. And in this box is A through C, and in this box is D, E, F. And so when Riley came up, they would have gone to the Combs, the C, and here's her medium that she ordered instead of a small. And at the end of the day, what happened is that some kid who was a small got a double X because that's all that was left because they're randomly, it's just a matter of making it easy. And it's not the price. Selling to schools is a perfect example. It's not the price; it's how easy you make that sale, or how easy you make that for the teacher or the volunteer or the PTO to make that order and make it work. So all of that is adding value. A little more work on our part, but making life easy. And when you make life easy, especially when you're selling to PTOs and people like that, you have them for life. And it's not the price; it's ease of the sale.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can't say how many times in the early days of e-commerce that we won clients, and I mean permanently. We've moved people. It seemed like we never lost them by making the ordering process and the distribution process easy. It was ridiculous. And we luckily we were already doing some retail, so we had a folding machine. So it was like it made it even that much less of an overhead.
Yeah, love it. Love it. All right, let's talk to some of the regulars real quick here, guys. Linda Russell, good afternoon from New Jersey. Good to see you here, Linda. Appreciate you tuning in. And don't worry, Ramona, we got Terry back. She says, "Poor Terry, we miss you, buddy."
Thank you, Ramona.
And so Super Gamut says profit is often lost in unconventional line items.
This is true.
And then they go on to say, how much is your dunnage bill a month? Ours is over $500 a month. All right.
Now, for those you don't know.
Appreciate that. Dunnage is inexpensive or waste material used to load and secure cargo during transportation.
For those of you who don't know.
Yeah. And then this is a great example, Ramona. I like to think my availability to educate and answer questions from my clients is my value above and beyond the digitizing, which is 100% true.
I was going to say 100% as well.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Making that customer feel confident, warm and fuzzy about buying from you, that's value. When somebody says, whatever quote you have, I can give you 25 cents less, you have zero confidence that you're going to be satisfied with what you're going to get from that person.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. All right. So I think we got the regulators. Now we're getting into dad jokes. So we're going to get way off track here. And I already said we've got a chance of making this a two-part show already. So, all right. Well, I want to touch this one really quickly because I think this is also important, right? We're talking about what to do. But I guess the question, and maybe I'll throw this to you first, Terry, who should you not be pricing for?
Well, I'm not pricing for the person who calls me and says, "Sharpen your pencil." I'm calling every decorator in the tri-state area. I have absolutely no interest in that customer because usually the sharpen your pencil customer is also the person who complains the most, has the most issues with their orders. And I mean, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I'm referring to. And Eric, I'll throw it to you in 1 second. I just want to kind of piggyback on what Terry said there, because I think you're exactly right. If you go look, 80% of your income is going to come from 20% of your customers, that top 20%, right?
Right.
That sharpen your pencil guy is going to be in that where 80% of your complaints or challenges come from the bottom 20% of your customers.
Yeah.
Right. So that's called the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Yep.
Go look it up. It works in all sorts of different ways, and it's pretty true.
And zero loyalty. That customer is going to give zero loyalty to you because every time they order something, they're calling everybody and saying, "Sharpen your pencil."
Exactly.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I've always said the best, if you've got a PETA customer, for those that aren't in the know, that's paying in the, I'll let you figure out the last word. It starts with an A and it has two S's at the end. But I've always thought the best way to get rid of a PETA customer is just raise your prices. Price them out of the out of doing business with you. And when they say no, you got to lower your price, say no, and then they go away. And you're like, okay, that was easy.
Or they pay enough for you to put up with it. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the two can happen. I mean, that's also fine.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. This is something that came up in one of my recent workshops. They asked me what I do when I have one of these customers who wants to leave. And a special thing for the embroidery world is that we have our files produced. You guys know about digitizing, obviously. We have to have files digitized for people to run. And I actually give them my digitized file. Not the working file, mind you, not the one that you make changes on, but the stitch file. With no extra additions, no colors, no nothing. They can go match colors, everything else in the new shop. But everybody's like, really? You give them the file? Why is it? I'm like, if you find somebody who will walk for a bargain, they will walk for any bargain. They're going to walk on the next guy for a bargain too. That's always, like Terry said, zero reliability, zero loyalty from customers who do that. Also, yelling at them, fighting with them, trying to hold on to them, trying to hold on to their files. None of this makes you look any better. None of this makes them want to come back if that's the problem. Charge ahead of time for that file. Make sure you're covering those costs like we talked about with dunnage. Cover that digitizing cost. Make sure you're not unhappy about it. And then hand them off and say, go with my good graces. I hope if there's some reason to come back, you will, and you'll let other people know that we do good service. And I'll tell you the thing I always said, here's me telling stories over and over again. I very specifically told a client one time, I'm like, all right, here's your file. In 6 months, when the shop you're talking about is closed, please come on back, and I will take care of you when you're ready.
Yeah.
And this happened
Not
not to the day.
higher
In fact,
price than right now.
Yeah, it was exactly. I'm not changing the prices, but in 6 months, because they told me the price they were getting, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. You should go do that.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
Immediately.
Let me go send them all my work and subcontract because I
Correct.
can't make it for that. That sounds awesome. I would just love to take skim off the top. I'll be a distributor.
Yeah.
But I told them that, and literally, it was not only, it was like, oh, did that happen in 6 months? I'm like, no, 3. In 3 months, the shop down the road that we were talking about, who was selling at those prices, this very customer went to their door and found their door locked and chained, tried to bust their way in, had just given them $3,000 for a job that they then lost because they took the money and then closed the shop up.
Yeah.
And what did we do? We helped them at a lower cost. We did drop the prices once. We helped them at cost to get that job done.
Yeah.
Out of the goodness of our hearts, we're like, hey, at cost, I'm going to help you get that job done. We'll get you back. And they were a very loyal customer after that. But that's not always what I'll say. But it's just like you want to do the kind of work that makes you able to sleep at night, that matches your quality of service, and that also just fits with that principle that makes you valuable. If you can't do it for a certain amount of money, don't. And feel free to let people go and bargain shop. Most of them are never coming back. Or when they do, spend as little effort as you can on them. Yeah. Only the effort to do the kind of work that you want to do, to
Absolutely.
be the kind of decorator you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I talked to somebody just this week. They weren't buying garments; they were buying a cutter, and he called me up and gave me the price. Actually, I was working with Amy at Equipment Zone on it, and I said, they're trying to buy your account. They're trying to buy your business. You should take advantage of that and buy that cutter from them that they're basically selling to you at cost, because he had also, in fact, just bought 3 large format DTF printers from me. And I thought, well, this guy is trying to get in the door by selling something at cost. Yeah, knock yourself out. If I were you, I would buy that too. But then what is that person going to do? Okay, well, here are regular prices now, so it's that buying business kind of thing never works out.
Well, and I think the other thing you have to be ready to do as a shop is communicate with confidence what your value is that you're providing, and be clear with that. Say, here's what I'm providing, and especially when you are faced with competition, say, this is what I provide that I don't believe they're going to provide for you. Obviously, you're going to do what's best for your money, your pocketbook, and that's great. Here's what I need and what the exchange means to me and what you mean to me as a customer and what I'm willing to do. But also say, I've got a value that here's what it is. If you can't tell someone what the reason is to work with your shop, that's a question you need to answer today. That's a question you can't leave behind, because if that's all you have is I have equipment, that's not enough. It's not enough to keep somebody, and it's not enough as a sales proposition.
Yeah. All right. So just to add my 2 cents, why not, right? Well, while we're
Please.
going, I thought who you should not price for would be a very quick question, but no, it did not turn into be that.
Never.
You know who you were talking to, right?
Yeah, that was my bad. I missed I missed the audience. So here's yes, exactly what you guys said. Let's start there. Secondly, just to add to it, everybody who has money in their wallet, right? Like I think that's the other side of this is we want to be all things to everyone. And then we get lost in the mix, right? We don't have any perceived value because we're just trying to do everything that everybody else is doing, right? Stick to your zone of greatness. Lean into what you're good at. Lean into those things, and that's your value, right? Just this is, I think, probably a great place for me to kind of give my what's the difference between value and price, right? Price is a cost thing, right? Price is like what you end up agreeing to pay. Value is what somebody believes that thing is worth, right? Like, for example, I drive an Acura, right? And I know it's just a glorified Honda. Like, I'm not, but there's this value to it, right? It had a different, and I was willing to, put that perceived value onto it. I mean, I'm sure I've told you guys about the great coffee debacle of 1980, when I was a kid sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts in a little small town in northern Arizona with my dad, and the Dunkin' Donuts decided they were going to start charging all the old guys for coffee instead of giving it to them free with their donuts. That they had to buy a dozen donuts before they could get their free coffee. And I really thought these old guys were going to have a revolt. But but you think about that, right? Like that was 1980. Now, how much do we pay for a cup of coffee? And it's still coffee, right? Like there hasn't been that much change, and yet we're paying $5, $6, $7, $8, $9 for coffee nowadays. So value is what we're willing to pay for it. A price or cost is actual numbers. And I think we just don't, as humans, we don't have a good gauge of what something actually costs, especially when we're making buying decisions based on emotions, right? And I don't care how unemotional you are or how analytical your brain works, you make a buying decision based on emotions. It's how quickly you justify that buying decision is basically how analytical you are, right? And a lot of people will make that buying decision and they have buyer's remorse because they assign more value to it. And right, so sorry, that was my soapbox moment. So.
It's true. It's a good soapbox to be on.
The Starbucks and the Dutch Bros of the world have created this illusion of how valuable this cup of coffee really is. And for you to walk around with your Dutch Bros cup rather than the one from Quick Trip.
Well, and that's the thing. Association with a feeling, a brand. If you go to Dutch Bros, the look of everything they have, and they have like little graffiti stuff on the walls, and it's like you feel like, oh, I'm a Dutch Bros person. That's what I'm into. Like that's the kind of thing I do.
Yeah.
Or the other part of it, you were talking about something emotional. Are you buying a coffee, or are you buying yourself the little treat, the reward, the break from your day?
Yep.
And honestly, I think most of us, if we were serious, we're buying ourselves a little reward. We're buying ourselves a pat on the back that comes in a cup. We're buying ourselves a break. And that's a very different thing to pay for than a coffee at the Love's truck stop as you're blaring across the country. Ask me how I know. You most certainly, like, getting the caffeine in your system's important, and you'll pay for that. But having a little break when you've gone and done a bunch of stuff that you didn't want to do suddenly is worth a lot more to you. Right. And being catered to, and having somebody write something nice on your cup, and all the little things that elicit that feeling of like, I belong somewhere. You're right, it's an emotional decision, and we might not love the idea that we're swayed so easily, but all of us are. Otherwise brands wouldn't matter. A car would be four wheels that takes you somewhere. A cup of coffee would be some caffeine and some and some random milk and sugar. But it's not.
Yeah, your car would be like Henry Ford said. You can have any color you want as long as it's black.
Absolutely. And people got around in Fords, and it was, and that's how it is. That's utility, and you still have to have utility. trust me, the car doesn't go somewhere and suddenly you can't do it. Your shirt is junk, your print feels bad, your embroidery is bulletproof, and people will hate that. You do still have to provide utility in your value proposition, but if you also make people feel like they're heard, seen, part of the creative process, introduced to cool new stuff that they wouldn't have heard from, but you are the person who's the conduit of that cool stuff, that's all value that doesn't really fit on the lines. Everything you can measure should be measured and managed into your price, obviously. We don't want to be losing stuff out, like the dunnage comment, which is a very good comment to make. But the other thing that dunnage shows, we talked about dunnage, the stuff that you pack in with your stuff you're going to ship. The fact that dunnage bill is high is also like, hey, this is how much we care that stuff gets to the place it's going intact, that we pay for stuff to pack in that box at an excess. We are the people who care enough to make sure that you opening that box when it gets to you, your stuff is secure. Absolutely. That's still part of that quality and that emotional value process,
Yeah, and I can speak to that directly. I mean, Super Gamut, that is their MO. It's about white glove service. So, make sure things get there. There's a checklist to make sure everything's right. We send everything, not just, hey, here's a printer. It's everything, computer, the whole nine to get your shop set up. And then we come on site and set it up, right? And so that's part of the value proposition. People know that if they purchase through us, they're going to have a machine that works and is up and running, and the support and service to go along with that. And so, they're not coming to us for the cheapest thing.
I think there was what did Terry say about that? We got to do good work and deliver on time, and then we add the value.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Terry.
But I was just going to say, just like my secret sauce last week, where I talked about ordering things from China. Yeah, you can get a machine from China, and hopefully it gets to you intact. But again, it's who you're going to call. Your support is a WhatsApp call to China at 1 a.m. The value of buying from Super Gamut or companies like that is like you said, it's going to get there intact. Everything's going to be there that you need. We're going to walk in the door and put it together for you, and we're not leaving until you're happy. That's what value. And Eric, you said something about I'm a Dutch Bro person. That's our whole industry.
Yeah,
is people associating with something or when I went to see the Stones, I knew how much it cost to print that shirt. Did I buy that $50 T-shirt? Yeah, it was the Stones. And why? When I wear it, people know that I went to see the Stones. I associate. Did you see the Stones?
It's also the opening salvo and getting to tell the story again.
Yeah. And for you younger folks, that's the Rolling Stones. They were anyhow. I'm sorry. Just kidding, Terry. All right. All right. So we're gonna definitely make this a two-part show. So we will come back on the 17th here. It looks like, because we've got another show next week that we're really excited about. But we're going to come back next week and talk about these things that we're talking about right now. How do we translate that into pricing that actually works? But we've got a couple more things to cover here yet today. And I want to cover some of the regulator stuff here. We've got tons of great comments going on in the background here. So I'm going way back to, in fact, I've got them starred, Eric, if it's easier for me to just hit the buttons.
Okay.
But I'm going way back to Doug here. He said, I'm going to go shop retail polos, see what they cost at regular stores. We're providing quality shirts that are customized for the business. What do you think? And then let me just get his follow-up here. I have to change my mindset that I can't be afraid of losing jobs because I priced it fairly. So, Eric, what do you think?
Here's where I'm going to go with some radical honesty. If you aren't moving the needles up and down and you really are just without jobs, some of us we're going to drop prices sometimes. I'm not going to say that's never going to happen in your life, or especially you start out new, that you're not ever going to discount. I don't love the idea of it, but it's going to happen when you have zero work. If you're working at any kind of level that's close to your capacity, you absolutely have to get rid of this mindset. Because the thing is, it's not just the time you spend on that order, it's lost opportunity in looking for more orders too. If you keep yourself just grinding on stuff that's not paying off, you will eventually lose the ability to hunt for new customers as well. Especially as somebody who's a solopreneur, or you've got a small shop where you're featuring in production and in marketing, pushing the business. I think you absolutely have to think about opportunity costs as well. And here's the thing: ultimately, if you're doing work that is literally under the break-even point, you're doing charity all the time. You're not. It doesn't matter if you're moving the needles. It doesn't matter if you're moving the press. You're literally giving away more than you're getting. There's no point to doing it at all. You could be standing in line somewhere. You could be, writing new marketing pitches, because you at least would be at zero, not losing money. So, I mean, never take a losing job. Are we ever going to take a job that's not the most profit we've ever made? Probably. But you definitely have to get out of this mindset. And I'll say the other part that he said, this concept of the retail store, absolutely. You are producing something. And I'll say this too. When I'm talking to embroiderers, they're usually talking about their production quality. And invariably, they're talking about incredibly small variations in production quality that I know if you went and looked at a retail store, you would be seeing quality lower than the stuff that they're unwilling to accept in their own work. And you need to not only look at the retail store and say, hey, here's the price of this branded retail thing. Now, the problem is association with a brand can increase value. And if you're not associating with a brand that's valuable, just because we make a thing that's unique doesn't always make it have that value. But I would say that your quality as a decorator, if you are competent, is probably as good as most of those retail things you're seeing. And secondarily, that yes, you are providing personalization, personal solutions where you're helping them figure stuff out, and you are helping them with the process of figuring out what they want. Those are valuable things that you can't let go.
Yeah.
So all of that's true, and very much you have to let go of this concept that if you price something fairly and you're afraid of losing the job, that you have to just discount and discount and discount, because you will eventually fill your books with jobs that don't pay.
Yeah.
Just no point to it.
Lots of times. So I'm going to just kind of piggyback on that. Like, while we're talking radical honesty, right? Like, I think one of the challenges too is, like, if you're cheap, you're going to get cheap customers, right? Like, that's kind of, it's a little hard to, yes, you can separate that and understand where your value lies. But like, it just makes me think, I was talking to somebody not too long ago whose role is really to raise money for their organization. And the conversation was interesting because I had asked them, hey, I haven't seen you at church lately. Everything okay? And they're like, yeah, we kind of stopped going because it just seems like all they ever do is ask for money. And I'm going, isn't that what you do? Like, and so, like, that's
He needs a break.
yeah, you should be like jumping up and down, going, yeah, I get it. Let's do that, right? So, anyhow, no, so it's just that kind of mindset, right? Like, if you're going to go and beat up your, go price shop all of your vendors, and guess what's going to happen? So I think that leads me a little bit into then comment from Ramona here. She says, and this is when we were talking about who not to price for, right, back then. She says, I want your best price. I'm price shopping, so I want to beat all the others. Nope, I won't do it. I know what I'm worth. And Wendy, great to see you. It's been a little bit here. Clients who ask for their design files as they are price shopping, I feel like they're going to be a platinum level PETA client for someone else, right? Hopefully that. So a couple thoughts there. All right.
I like the idea of ranking PETA clients, and you get your platinum level.
Platinum level.
That's
I love it.
fantastic.
Go ahead. Terry.
I'm sorry. Can I comment about when we talk about also taking orders where we're not making a lot of profit? An example for me is I used to sell in the fraternity and sorority market, and we sold at retail price at wholesale quantity. I mean, everything that went out our door, because who has the most money to spend on a college campus? Fraternity and sorority members. They will spend. My garage, I had two of those big tubs from a Target that just had T-shirts that my daughter Taylor had from her sorority at Arizona State. But our business went to zero June, July, and August.
Yeah.
So rather than when I got there, they basically laid everybody off in the summer and then hoped that people would come back in the fall. I'm like, you can't be serious.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I went out and found contract work that we didn't make a lot of money on it. We certainly didn't lose money, but it kept all those employees working, and we made enough money to pay everybody, so that when we got back to the middle of August, we were in a position where we were making tons of money again on every order we did. But it was a vehicle to get from spring to fall, and so it made sense. Now, did I continue to do contract work? Absolutely not. Once August 15th, I said to everybody that we were doing work for, we cannot take any more contract orders, because our average turnaround time for fraternity and sorority market was 24 hours.
Yeah.
We'd get an order on Tuesday, we'd ship it on Wednesday. And so you can't be doing side jobs where you're not making that kind of money. But I mean, that's an example. A lot of us are in these cyclical kind of markets that sometimes you have to fill the space. I tell people all the time, if you have big orders, find somebody that has an automatic press, because they have downtime and they want to fill it, and they'll give you great pricing because they just want their employees to have work to do to keep them there for when they can make their real money. So that's my example. Real life
Well,
example.
and that's knowing your numbers and flexibility.
Yeah.
And understanding your market and your positioning. I think that's all fair. That's all fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I will say this: if you had found a market during that season that was going to get you that same retail pricing per piece, you'd have shed that contract in a minute, wouldn't you?
Oh, in a second. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, you wouldn't have cared one moment. So
All right.
it's about that.
All right. Let's hit one more regulator comment string here, and then yes, we are probably going to get bonus time, but because I do have one more question I want to make sure we hit here today, and maybe leave some people with some actionable takeaways, that some homework they can do, so when they come back on the 17th for the second half of this show, they'll be ready to rock and roll. So Jeannie here says, as a small business, we have the mess where booster clubs think we should be as cheap as, list those big companies, for imprints, et cetera, that they order from, but then they want donations from us, from their local decorator, right? Like, and Ramona kind of followed that up and said, previous conversations I had, they would say, oh, give me a donation, you'll get lots of exposure and lots of orders, right? Like, is that true, right? So, what's your guys' take on that?
Well, I've certainly been in that position, and it's tricky. It's really tricky because you join the football boosters club, and then the regular boosters club, and the band boosters club, and everything's good, and you're getting orders, and the next year somebody else is the chairman of that, and they go online and find somebody to buy from. So it can be, I guess it's it's a difficult thing to maintain consistently. So
Yep. Yeah, and go ahead, Eric. I think you've actually got something.
Oh, honestly, this one's always tough. I agree. This is a tough one because here's the thing. If you don't believe in the donation, don't do it, because I think there's times where you're doing the donation because you're getting pressured. If it's not something you want to do as part of your community, I wouldn't do a donation like that. The other thing I've often done is said, okay, it's a really great thing for us. If you're going to order from us, I can give you pricing over a certain point. Or it's like something where I'm like, yeah, I'm donating, but I'm not out of pocket with no. It's like you show a little commitment to your local businesses around here, we'll show commitment to our local groups too.
Yeah.
That's maybe sounds a little transactional, but ultimately, especially when they are likely, like you said, to have this experience where they're running off somewhere or bargain shopping, because there's just not a lot of money in the kitty, that can happen. You do have to kind of guard yourself a little bit and say, hey, yeah, if you get an order, here's what I'll do to donate. Here's a free garment on every 10. We can do something like that where it makes sense to us and is part of the process of doing work with us. then it's a little easier to stomach. But the other thing is, like I said earlier, you should be able to articulate the unique reason why you're better to work with than 4imprint. That's the other part of this, because we talked about that but aside from the other discussion stuff. But it's like, it's based on a mutual exploration of, hey, we're all in a community together, let's help each other out and keep local. But staying local means, we're also not getting overseas production pricing on everything. That's what it means to buy local.
Yeah.
I'm much more likely to make that donation if one of my kids is in that school.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
Personal connections, and that's fine. That's part of your corporate culture. You belong to the community you're in.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think.
And I'll say this, and Jeannie said we've given some for events, but we also tell them we based our donations on purchases in the past. She asked, is that a bad idea? I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. I think ultimately, to me, this boils down to that relationship, right? Like, if you want a donation from me and I want your business, we need to establish a relationship, right? And if they're just running around saying, I want donations and not willing to establish a relationship, that's normally for me where I'm like, no, right? No, thank you. There's no relationship there for me. So that's kind of my take on it. Terry, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, there's that's an excellent point, and you're correct. And sometimes it takes a little legwork on your part because, again, back to the fraternity and sorority market, the secret that we had to doing millions of dollars in sales in fraternity sorority market is we had a calendar where we knew when every fraternity and every sorority in America had their elections. And the next day, somebody from our office was calling every house saying, hey, can I speak to your new social chairman? And congratulations on being elected social chairman. Julie, the old social chairman, bought all their party favors, bought all their event merchandise from me. I just wanted to introduce myself. Who is Susie going to buy from? You think Susie is a professional buyer? No, she's a chemistry major that doesn't want to screw up this job. So you could do the same thing in the local schools and things like that. Know when the PTO has their elections, reach out to whoever that person is that's taking over that job. Introduce yourself, because before preempt that trip to the internet looking for the best price, and basically introduce yourself as someone that has a relationship with the PTO or the band boosters or whatever organization it is.
Yeah.
Well, I like Ramona has a good point here that I have to bring up here, because she says this. I do donations. I ask my business card be included, but I don't expect anything in return. And when I do donate, it's to what's important to me. Yeah. And these are two different things, because I'm going to tell you this. This is kind of awful to say. The sports and school booster club donation begging is a very different world than other. I have not seen nearly as many charities beg us for donations in a way that I had from like booster clubs and stuff like that. There was always it was very much like the influencer marketing thing where you're like, hey, if you just let me have all this free stuff, for sure I'm going to expose you to all these people. We got more of those kind of asks from those groups than we did from, say, like animal rescue or, right. We had a women's charity that we donated to a lot, and we never really had orders from them. We just donated every year at Black Duck, and that was just a thing that we did. But that's the thing. That is also a way to do it. The other kind of cynical way to say it is like, hey, don't donate anything you can't lose. It's like gambling. If you can't lose it, don't put it on the table. If it's something that's going to make you feel bad for donating it, if you can't afford to donate it, don't do it. That's okay.
I just saw a commercial for Donators Anonymous.
Yeah, for real. And that's the thing. You can get into that point where you're like, wow, I just realized like I ate up the profit for this month. That's just the truth. If you can't do it, you can't do it. And that's okay. Right. It's okay to not be in the position where your business right now can do a bunch of donations just because the local anything comes to ask you. But if you do donate, do it something that you and your company cares about, it's part of your core values, and that you can afford to do. And when it's those begs where it's just this kind of like, trust me, there's another. How many times have we all heard, let me order one of 12 colors of shirt, and that big order is coming as soon as I start showing this off to people. All right, cool. Let's have you pay for all 12 setups.
Yeah.
That's what I tell them. Like, okay, you can pay for all those 12 setups. We can work with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not we're not funding your business venture. Yeah. We're not taking risk on for whatever that is.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
let me tie this back to
Yeah.
the value thing, though,
Yes, yeah,
in
please.
general, because again, if your business, the part of the value that your business is providing is your support of the local community, right? And kind of to Wendy's point here in a second, but
Yeah,
but this
yeah.
idea that that's part of your value, right? And those big companies, are they doing that? Are they giving back to the local community? No. And so those booster clubs that are choosing to go somewhere else, then that they don't have matching values, and so you're not doing business with them. And honestly, I'm not donating to them, right? I'm donating to causes and situations where there is that matching value establishment, right? And so if your values are, hey, I'm about supporting my local community, are you? And prove it to me,
Yeah.
right? Prove it to me, because you're buying your shirts from some big company that's not giving back to the local community.
Right.
So I guess that's where I tie this whole thing back to. This is part of what our value proposition is.
Yeah.
And so let me share Wendy's comment here. She says, I've started donating coaches shirts when they ask for donations. If they aren't clients, I have a discussion that they should go to who they ordered their spirit wear from. 90%, it's an online company. I say supporting local is a two-way street. I actually ended up with 2 new clients from it last year, right? Because sometimes, like Terry said, a lot of these people aren't professional buyers, and they're just like, what's the easiest route? And the easiest route was they saw the 4imprint commercial.
Yep.
And so they're gonna do that, because to Terry's point, we've got to put in the legwork. We got to go prove our value, show our value by saying, not just saying I support local, but actually doing it by getting out there and having those conversations with these people that are asking for donations and stuff like that. So.
And if we're not marketing, they don't know you exist. You're assuming that they've gone to the local market to see you're there. And if you're not out there in the space, then what do they see? Well, maybe 4imprint on a streaming ad.
Yep.
That's what they see. We assume everybody knows everywhere. You don't know everything that's on your main street right now. You think you do, but you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely hear that a lot from folks where they're upset that somebody didn't do business with them. I'm like, well, did they know about you? Well, they should. Really?
Okay. How?
Because I've seen your social media. I don't think they should.
Yeah, to use an extremely dated reference, this isn't Field of Dreams. You don't just build it and they will come.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to hang out your shingle, and I think the way Terry's saying about it was very personal. If we're talking about local groups, local areas, we're talking about supporting a community. Yeah, absolutely, real footwork. Holy cow, putting in actual calls, real footwork, being somewhere, dropping off cards, dropping off catalogs. And I don't mean catalogs, contact sheets is what I actually mean, because I think dropping somebody else's catalog off is a weak sauce way to do that. But yeah, that means a lot to people. Putting in a little bit of effort and giving a little bit to let them know you're there is super important.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap it up here. We are already well into bonus time, as I expected. And but I do want to just have each of us kind of share a takeaway. It's something that, maybe it's homework, maybe it's just something that people can put into use today when it comes to talking about value and perceived value. So, Terry, what's the big takeaway you want people to have from today?
Oh, gosh. I think that to look at your processes and depending on what your market is, how easy you make it for the customer to buy. I'm going to go with that.
Yep. All right, and I will jump in here, and then we'll let Eric close us up with this question. So for me, it's really about first understanding what your value is, right? And I know that can be challenging, but honestly, it's actually rather simple when you break it down. The way we do it in our success group is, what are your strengths? What are your values? What are your passions? And then come up with your core value statements, right? What are the non-negotiables in your business? We talked about supporting your local community. Quality workmanship might be a value of yours, right? And just really define what those values are, and then associate that with your ideal customers. Not everybody with money in their wallet, but the ideal people you love working with. Associate that with your ideal customers, and then you can start making that value proposition, right? Because at the end of the day, price is just what people assign to the value of that. And so our job as business owners is not to set pricing. Our job as business owners is to create value, which then allows us to set pricing, and that becomes our pricing strategy. So that would be my big takeaway, or the thing that I want people to really kind of think about. And then, like I said, when we come back in 2 weeks to wrap up this show, we can talk about ways that we translate this into pricing that actually works. So, Eric, what about you?
Since you two both had points that I would have loved to cover,
We
what I'm
stole-
actually going to do is
stole from you, yes.
I'm going to give homework that's based on these two things that I think works out for all of us.
Yeah.
Number one, I'd like everybody to take this attitude into the next time they are making a purchase. As you are going to make a purchase, when you make these purchases, hey, keep a little journal. It sounds goofy, but you're a customer and you make purchases all the time. Write down why you made a purchase, what made the difference, what made you tip. So what made you tip over into being willing to purchase from someone? Write that stuff down, or at the very least, take notice of it. Be an aware person who takes notice of what's going on around you. Be curious about why you buy. That's number one, as part of your kind of long-term strategy to fix this for yourself. Second, if you already have a business right now, and I'm assuming most of you do, eat your own dog food. Go out and do your entire ordering process. If you have other staff, awesome, great. If you can do it secretly, fantastic. If you're online especially. Even if you're not, go through and order like a customer and review your process and how you're handling things. So many times, especially if we've been in business for a little while, we forget how this works. And especially if you're somebody who has some sort of online store, a lot of us really don't actually have a full feeling. And I mean, get out your credit card and pay yourself for something and lose the fee. I get it. That sucks. But do it anyway. Go through, lose the merchant fee, buy something from yourself, and cancel out the order. And find out how the entire process feels buying from you.
Yep.
And write down where the friction's at. You do those two things, you will start to understand more about value and the experience of buying from people, what makes people tip, and certainly about where you are failing in your base process. Though certainly also think about, hey, where is there a place that I can inject some of that value, where I can express some of what I'm worth, or where I can add to the process to make it valuable in a way that makes me worth more to the average customer.
Cool. Love it.
You know, the movie The Intern, the CEO ordered from her own company, got the delivery and said, "What happened to my company? What happened?" You know, so that's an excellent point, Eric.
Oh yeah, you have to. And as someone who's done e-commerce this long, it's easy to lose sight of it, even if you built it. You have to do test buys on occasion to make sure everything is what you think it is. And when we're talking about this increased value that we're trying to add, it really does help to just put on your customer hat, you know, bring that mindset to it and try and forget what it means to be on the other side while you're doing it.
Yep. All right, let me close out with a couple other regulator comments here real quick. This was from about 25 minutes ago, so we missed her already, but Linda said, hey, gotta run. Thanks for some great info. Nice finally meeting you, Eric and AC. Happy Easter.
Absolutely great to meet you out there.
Yep, awesome. And then let's, I don't know if we can make the 17th show work by then. I don't know who's paying for us to go out on this remote thing, but our good friend Doug Quinn says, I know the 2-3 regular guys would want to know. I'm watching for the first time from the beach in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands. When would you like to schedule a remote show? So,
all right.
It's just,
I love it.
If you guys,
we are accepting donations of plane tickets.
That's right. We're going to start calling everybody asking for donations to send us to St. Croix.
If you send us to one Virgin Island trip,
all right. And then I have to bring up my my older son's dad joke that he shared here.
Let's do it.
My friend was showing me his tool shed and pointed to a ladder and said, "That's my step ladder." And then he said, "I never knew my real ladder."
That's really good.
I like it. That's good.
All right. So I think we covered them all. I think we just had a couple new ones come in that I missed, but let's just double check that. All right. So Wendy says, great topic, so important. Can't wait for the next installment.
Good to hear it.
Speaking of next installment, and I'll stop pushing buttons now, Eric,
okay.
Yes. So next week we do have another show coming that we're excited about, and we'll tell you more about that a little bit later. But let's plan on the 17th of April as the time for part 2 of this show. Next installment, as Wendy said. So thanks, Wendy. All right, guys. Well, let's do this in reverse order here, Eric. Since we have you on screen, would you like to share with us what you've got coming up today here?
Yeah, provided everything is as stable and hopefully holds together, I will be doing the take up this afternoon. It'll be a short show, I believe. I always say that and don't manage it, but I'm certainly going to try.
Sorry, didn't mean to laugh out loud.
Another day, well worth it. I said as much today. I was like, guys, I don't know if I can be on, and then talked myself into oblivion. All right, so I'm going to be doing the Take Up episode 247. It's Impressions Expo Atlantic City. So I'm going to be sharing a little takeaway about the interesting developments and the lessons learned at the recent Impressions show in Atlantic City, including discussions about the topics that transfixed our students and the show floor fixtures that made the difference. So definitely some interesting stuff going on at that show, and a little more lively than we might have expected. So something that's worth tuning in on if you were wondering what happened in Atlantic City. And also, because there'll be some lessons from that came directly from questions from the show floor and from the sessions that were there. Join me over at ericcampbell.com and click the Take Up tab at the top. It will be up shortly. Had some technical issues with that, but it will be at ericcampbell.com this afternoon, or go to the YouTube channel and grab that. By the way, get out there, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. It's the best way to get me. YouTube is the place to keep that long term now that Facebook has started to delete our lives after a certain amount of time. So grab it. I would love to see you guys on the YouTube channel if you can.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So for me, I've got the accelerator. The next cohort is starting June 8th. I know that's a little ways out, but it'll come up on us faster than we think. So just head over to osg.link/builder. It's an opportunity. You'll see a button right there to schedule a clarity call. And so there's no pressure, no sales there. It's just an opportunity to talk through your strengths, values, and passions. I actually brought that up in the show today. And so a lot of these things we talked about today, we actually go very deep dive in the accelerator program, which is a 12-week program that we're wrapping up right now. And some of the comments I've already gotten from that program have just blown me away. And I've been so appreciative of hearing this. And one of the comments specifically was, I'm not beating myself up as much, right? Doug was talking earlier about mindset of, got to trust my pricing. There you go, right? Like, come join the accelerator. I finally feel clear was another comment that I got. And just a great comment to follow up on what we talked about here today. I'm more confident in my pricing, right? So to me, that's what it's really all about. It's not just better business tactics, but I want people to become the kind of business owners who actually enjoy what they get to do. And in fact, I got my get to is greater than have to shirt on today. little faded out. This is an old DTG print without an underbase. So I wanted to try it on a blue shirt. Anyways, sorry, I got off the rails there. But again, go to osg.link/builder. And I'd love to have that conversation with you guys if you're interested in learning more. But really, it's just an opportunity to talk through your strengths, values, and passions. I will give you actionable takeaways. There's no cost or anything like that, and just real conversation to help you move forward. And if the accelerator might be a next step, that's great, but not expected. And then Small Business Saturday, one more week of hiatus as we wrap up the accelerator program. And I will be back next Saturday with a new episode. So not this upcoming Saturday, but that's the 11th or the 7th, no, 10th, 11th, the 11th of April, excuse me. Sorry, I was doing calendar math in my head. And so, but in the meantime, you're welcome to head over to liveosg.com, and that will get you to my YouTube channel where you can subscribe there. There is a full library of business mindset topics and practical tips that you guys can start using right away. As far as being out in the real world, I'm getting excited. We're getting close to it here. DAX Dayton is coming up April 24th and 25th. On Friday, I will be teaching the myth of everyone is my customer, and just kind of sharing a clear vision of who you serve, that ideal customer, that niche or niche market, and really how to attract more of the right customers is the takeaways from that class. Immediately after that, my class will be called Bye Bye Burnout, and just sharing some tips and tricks for ways to create sustainable habits that keep your creativity and your business thriving, even through the challenging sessions. So you can go to daxshow.com and sign up for that. Also use the the code SuperRob2026, and that will get you a $30 credit towards the classes. And so check that out. Also, the next morning, I get to facilitate a conversation with Rob Super and Sean Stewart. And we're going to be talking about real-world DTF workflow. So the title of the class is DTF 101, from file to finished artwork, what actually matters. And we're going to cover all those things and just give you a real, honest, actionable, hey, here's what we're seeing. And here's ways that you can reduce reprints, wasted time, and frustration, and just through the whole thing. I think a lot of times we get that tunnel vision, and I'm worried about how cheap of ink I can get, or this printer, or this thing, or how am I pressing this, right? Look at your entire process and see what that looks like. So that's me. What about you, Terry?
My complete screen printing business course, upcoming dates with Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, June 6th and 7th, August 22nd and 23rd, and November 7th and 8th. You can watch for all my upcoming events at terrycombs.com.
Excellent. Nice. Looking forward to those things coming up here. All right. Well, you guys, good show. Great. I mean, just great conversation. And I'm glad that it's going to be a two-parter, because I think there is a lot of great details in here, and hopefully people are seeing the takeaways that they're going to be able to use when it comes to pricing.
Well, hopefully I will be on for the entire show next time.
All good, Terry. Glad it worked out.
All right. We also want to thank our show producer, Eric Campbell, for all he does, pushing the buttons and turning the wheels, and appearing with us live today.
Yeah, great job today, Eric. Thank you. And Terry, thanks to you as well. Great information, great feedback. All right, guys. So next week, we've got a great show coming for you. We're going to have Jay Bassell, Cassie Green, Teresa Hegel, and maybe some bonus guests coming to give us a little preview of the Sustainable Merch Summit coming up. We were part of this last year, and it's going to be happening on Earth Day. It's going to be the Sustainable Merch Summit, but next week we're going to talk all about it. So show up and learn all about that and what it means, right? Like there will be actionable takeaways from our show tomorrow, not just a straight preview of the summit, but that'll be the deep dive when you come to the summit after that. So love talking to these guys about sustainability, and they Cassie and Teresa and Jay have a real passion for it. So we're excited to talk to them next week.
Nice.
Absolutely. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Eric Campbell. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Two Regular Guys. We're here because of listeners like you, and we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us. For more valuable insight, be sure to visit our website, 2regularguys.com, and join the conversation on our Facebook page. And hey, if you or someone you know has expertise, a unique perspective, or a story worth sharing, we'd love to have them as a guest on the show. Just reach out. Remember, success in this industry isn't just about the equipment you own or the techniques you've mastered. It's about the mindset you bring and the connections you build. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to think differently. Keep pressing on, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Two Regular Guys.